Greenwood Lakes is a gated residential community on the outskirts of Riverbend, California. It's known for its rows of maple trees lining the sidewalks, neatly trimmed gardens, lush green lawns, and a spacious community pool at the center. Although it appears peaceful, Greenwood Lakes shares similarities with any suburban area. Diverse residents, each with their own style. And behind those tidy houses, unexpected stories sometimes unfold. Time frame: mid-July, at the peak of summer. The sun is blazing, the heat radiates across the neighborhood, and everyone seems to be seeking relief by the pool. Children frolic in the water, seniors enjoy leisurely walks around the artificial lake, and everything gives an impression of calm tranquility. Ebony Wilson, 52, is an African-American woman serving as the sheriff of Riverbend. She's about 5'5", 160 cm, physically fit, with black curls threaded with silver, usually tied up in a neat bun for work. Ebony has been in law enforcement for over 25 years, holding various positions before becoming head of the department 3 years prior. She bought her house in Greenwood Lakes almost a decade ago. After grueling work weeks, Ebony loves coming home to this peaceful neighborhood. She's known by the HOA, Homeowners Association, because she has helped with security initiatives and community crime prevention events. However, Ebony prefers not to flaunt her position. She likes blending into the community as a regular resident, going grocery shopping, jogging, sometimes joining neighbors for barbecues. Ebony values composure. Throughout her career, she has learned to handle conflicts with reason, steering clear of heated reactions. She's witnessed bias and discrimination, has never condoned it, yet has learned how to stand her ground through confidence and professional competence. Her primary drive is serving the community and demonstrating that a Black woman can lead and uphold standards without resorting to forceful displays of power. Ronald Green, around 48, is a white man who recently moved to Greenwood Lakes from the Midwest. He's tall, often dressed in a tucked-in polo shirt and khaki pants, always appearing meticulous. Ronald has a dignified outward appearance, but beneath lies a rather outdated conservative worldview. He tends to keep to himself, sometimes coming across as controlling. He scrutinizes whether others follow the rules, which can make people uncomfortable upon first meeting him. Ronald has a 16-year-old daughter named Alyssa Green. His wife passed away 2 years ago after an illness, leaving Ronald to raise their daughter alone, often overprotective and anxious. After relocating to Greenwood Lakes, Ronald values settling in safely above all else. He's strict about regulations, sometimes excessively so, verging on intrusive meddling. He also holds lingering subconscious racial biases he hasn't fully recognized. After 3 consecutive exhausting work weeks, city council sessions, budget hearings, training new recruits, Ebony is nearly burned out. She yearns for a peaceful Saturday. This Saturday, she wakes up at 9:00 a.m., intentionally ignoring the barrage of work emails. She sips coffee in a sunlit kitchen, sets her phone to silent, and circles the word rest in bold on her desk calendar. Ebony, inner monologue. Today, no calls unless it's a genuine emergency. I need to breathe, truly breathe. She opts for casual attire, a navy blue t-shirt, black athletic shorts, flip-flops. Her hair is in a loose bun with no makeup. Her fitness watch on her wrist indicates she only slept 5 hours. Determined to fully disconnect, she decides on a short walk around the neighborhood, then heads to the community pool. Greenwood Lakes' pool sits in a paved courtyard surrounded by a protective iron fence with lounge chairs, colorful sun umbrellas, and a small station where Ethan, a college lifeguard, oversees the area from an elevated chair. The pool's water shimmers in the bright sunlight, mirroring a pristine blue sky. Around noon, a few families are there with children. A couple of older residents read quietly, and small groups chat or sunbathe. Ebony enters through the iron gate carrying a medium-sized tote bag with a towel, a water bottle, and a detective novel. Ethan, who has met Ebony a few times, greets her warmly. Ethan. Good afternoon, Ms. Wilson. Haven't seen you out here in a while. Ebony, smiling. I've been busy. Today I'm just trying to relax. She chooses a lounge chair near the shallow end. Not too noisy, but not too isolated either. Lowering herself onto it, she leans back, letting the warm sun envelop her as she breathes deeply. She tries to push work concerns from her mind, focusing only on her skin soaking in the sun and the gentle sound of water splashing. Ebony has only enjoyed a short spell of calm when she senses a figure blocking the sunlight. Opening her eyes, she finds Ronald Green standing there, arms crossed, with a stern look. He's dressed in a white polo and khakis, leather shoes, an odd choice for a pool visitor. He seems less interested in relaxation than in surveillance. Ronald, coolly. Excuse me, do you live here? Ebony. Yes, I do. Ronald. Really? I just moved here a month ago, and I've never seen you around. The pool is for residents only. Ebony tries to respond politely, but Ronald's condescending tone irritates her. She takes a steady breath to remain calm. Ebony. I've lived in Greenwood Lakes for nearly 10 years. I came in through the gate just like everyone else. Ronald, in disbelief. That's strange. I've been here a month and never run into you. Are you sure? Sitting up straighter, Ebony notices a set of Greenwood Lakes pool rules peeking from Ronald's pocket, possibly indicating it's his first summer here, and that he's taking these rules extremely seriously. Ebony. Greenwood Lakes has over 300 households. We can't all have met each other. Ronald. But our security policy requires residents to use a key fob, FOB. Can you prove it? His tone grows more insistent. Ebony meets his gaze, her composure unshaken. Ebony, I don't owe you any proof. If you have concerns, you can check with the HOA. Ronald appears taken aback by her confidence, but maintains his confrontational stance. He glances around, hoping someone will back him up. Nearby kids continue splashing. A few people look over curiously. Ronald, I just want to keep this place secure. I heard outsiders sneak in sometimes, so I'm being cautious. If it's not a problem, showing me your fob would solve this quickly, right? Ebony recognizes his implication. A black woman here must be suspicious. Yet she remains level-headed, determined not to escalate. Ebony, what's your name? Ronald. Ronald Green. I take security seriously, especially with my teenage daughter. I don't want any shady characters around. The phrase, shady characters, echoes a familiar bias Ebony has faced repeatedly. She keeps her voice calm. Ebony. Mr. Green, I understand you care about safety, but you're implying I trespassed. I'm telling you I live right around the corner in the cream-colored house near the maple trees. Ronald hesitates, still suspicious, but lacking concrete evidence to dismiss Ebony. At this moment, Ebony is torn. The sheriff part of her wants to handle this by the book, firmly maintain order, demand he respect her privacy. The black woman in America part of her recalls many instances of being questioned or doubted for no justifiable reason. She tells herself, Ebony, inner monologue, don't get angry. I've seen this scenario too many times. Yelling or fighting back only reinforces their bias. Stay calm, Ebony. Show Ronald how misguided his behavior is without raising your voice. She remembers her father's advice. He was a high school teacher. The calmer you stay, the more obvious someone else's irrationality becomes. As Ebony remains composed, Ronald becomes annoyed that she won't comply. He steps closer, his tone sharpening. Ronald, you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. If you've got nothing to hide, just show me the fob, and we're done. Feeling his aggression, Ebony nonetheless holds her ground. An older neighbor, Mr. Darrell Parker, looks up from his newspaper. Mr. Darrell, Ebony, is everything okay? Ebony, turning to him, nodding. Thank you, Mr. Parker. I'm fine. Ronald shoots a glance at Mr. Darrell, surprised this neighbor knows Ebony by name. His confidence wavers, but he refuses to relent. Ronald, I don't get why you're refusing. If you really live here, it shouldn't be a big deal. Ebony, I've told you I live here. If that's not good enough, speak to the HOA. I have no obligation to show you a thing, especially after you assumed I'm an intruder. He stands there, frustration mounting. A few more people around the pool notice the tension. Alyssa, Ronald's teenage daughter, comes over holding a soda, looking puzzled at her father confronting this woman. Alyssa, Dad, what's going on? Ronald, quietly to her. I'm dealing with a security matter. Go back to your seat. Alyssa glances at Ebony, curiosity and concern on her face, but obeys her father, stepping back. In Ronald's mind, she doesn't look like she belongs, continues to swirl. He believes he's simply doing his duty, but Ebony's unwavering stance challenges that notion. Still, Ronald resents backing down in public. Ronald, I'm not trying to be the bad guy. I'm protecting my daughter, protecting this place. I have every right to do so. Ebony, no one denies your right to protect your family, but you're doing it incorrectly. Protecting means ensuring everyone's safety, including people who are different from you. True protection isn't about intrusion or intimidation. An awkward silence stretches between them. Alyssa, from a short distance away, looks increasingly uneasy, sensing her father's overreach, but afraid to intervene. Tension is high when a female voice calls from the gate. Voice, Sheriff Wilson, are you here? Everyone turns to see Lucinda Reyes, Ebony's administrative assistant, wearing workout clothes and carrying a stack of papers. Ebony, surprised. Lucinda, what's going on? Lucinda, hurrying over. I'm so sorry to bother you on your day off, but the city just announced an urgent budget hearing tonight, and they need your input before finalizing it. Ronald overhears Sheriff Wilson and stands dumbfounded. Ebony sighs, rises to her feet, facing away from Ronald as she takes the documents from Lucinda. Ebony, quietly to Lucinda, I specifically said I was off today, but okay, hand them to me. Lucinda, I'll wait at your house if that's all right. It'll just take 5 or 10 minutes. I'm really sorry. Lucinda walks away, leaving Ebony and Ronald in silence. Alyssa stares at Ebony wide-eyed. Dad, she's the sheriff. Ebony slips the papers into her tote bag, then removes a small wallet containing her badge. Opening it, she exposes the shining gold insignia. Riverbend Police Department, Sheriff Ebony Wilson. Ronald blinks, stepping back at the sight. Ebony, quiet but firm. Mr. Green, you wanted to know who I am? I'm not only a resident here, I'm the sheriff of this city. Ronald's face flushes, sweat beading on his forehead. He almost staggers as the reality sets in. Alyssa stands by, mouth ajar. Ebony, you've been making assumptions since the start. That I don't belong simply because I don't meet your idea of what a legitimate resident looks like. Ebony snaps the badge wallet shut and slips it into her bag. She hasn't raised her voice once, yet every word echoes with authority. Several neighbors nod in approval, some quietly applaud. Mr. Darrell smiles knowingly, and Ethan, the lifeguard, takes off his headphones entirely. Ronald stands uncertainly, like a pillar losing its foundation. He clears his throat, voice faltering. Ronald, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I didn't mean. He trails off. Alyssa looks at Ebony, a mix of admiration and embarrassment for her father. Ebony, with gentle sternness. Actually, you did have a specific intention. You assumed I didn't belong because I didn't fit your preconceived notion of a Greenwood Lakes resident. Ebony sits back down. Ronald glances around at other residents watching him expectantly. A few seconds pass in silence. Ebony, if you truly want to keep your family safe, consider how to approach people politely next time, rather than storming in as if they're criminals. Ronald mumbles another apology and leads Alyssa away. Soft conversation resumes at the pool. Ebony exhales, her heart still pounding slightly, but seeing Ronald's confusion, she senses there's no need to press further. Ebony, inner thought, I have far bigger battles ahead. This is enough. By late afternoon, Ebony quietly leaves the pool, waving goodbye to Ethan and Mr. Darrell. Other residents glance her way with curiosity, respect, or amazement. Within 24 hours, the story spreads across Greenwood Lakes. Text messages, phone calls, posts on the neighborhood social app. People dub it Green versus the Sheriff. Most side with Ebony, criticizing Ronald's overbearing behavior. Marilyn, in group chat. Did anyone see what happened yesterday? Sheriff Wilson got hassled at the pool for no reason. That's outrageous. We need more respect here. Stewart, replying, That's how I found out she's the sheriff. She's so modest. Ronald endures a wave of indirect scolding from neighbors. Don't make us look bad, Ronald. He avoids people for days, scarcely emerging from his home. At Ronald's neat upscale living room, he flips through HOA rule sheets. Alyssa, descending the stairs, sees his uneasy demeanor. Alyssa, Dad, you okay? Ronald, sighing. I just never expected she'd be the sheriff. I feel like a fool. Alyssa, softly. Maybe it's not just because she's sheriff. We shouldn't judge someone based on a glance. He remains quiet. Deep down, he realizes his daughter is right. He recalls his anxiety and grief since his wife's passing. Raising a teenage daughter alone has made him hyper-vigilant. But that vigilance, taken too far, fueled discriminatory behavior. Looking over a family photo from years back, Ronald clenches his jaw in regret. 2 days later, Ronald knocks on Ebony's door. A modest, cream-colored house with a small front yard where lavender grows. No one answers. He lingers for a moment, then slips an envelope under the doormat labeled, To Sheriff Wilson. Inside is a handwritten note. I, Ronald Green, sincerely apologize for my disrespectful behavior at the pool. I recognize that no motive justifies my baseless assumptions. Please forgive me. I hope we can begin anew as civil neighbors. Sincerely, Ronald Green. When Ebony returns, she finds the note, folds it, and places it on the table. She decides she will speak to him directly when the time is right. That night, Ebony attends a private meeting with the city council, returning home around 10:00 p.m., exhausted. Approaching her door, she's surprised to see Alyssa waiting outside, holding a math workbook. Alyssa, with slight tremor. Sorry for showing up out of nowhere, but I'm stuck on a summer assignment problem. I know you've worked with the youth tutoring program. Could you help me, please? Ebony is puzzled, but offers a gentle smile. She realizes this might be Alyssa's way of reaching out, perhaps embarrassed by her father's actions. Ebony, of course, come on in. At the dining table, they review math problems. Alyssa timidly asks questions, occasionally glancing at Ebony with genuine curiosity. After a few minutes, she musters courage. Alyssa, Sheriff Wilson, my dad's not a bad person, but he's always on edge since Mom died. I'm sorry he treated you so horribly. Ebony, nodding understandingly. I don't think he's a bad person. I only want him to see how his actions can harm others. Alyssa, he wanted to apologize to you. I guess you saw his note. Ebony gently pats Alyssa's shoulder. Ebony, thank you for bringing it. I'll talk to him. Don't worry. The HOA schedules an open session to introduce new residents and address questions. Ebony often attends as a special guest for security-related matters. Ronald also goes, wanting to get involved in community affairs. At the HOA office, a modest meeting room with folding chairs and a projector, Ebony and Ronald cross paths before the meeting starts. Ronald stands up and approaches her, visibly attempting composure. Ronald. Good evening, Sheriff Wilson. I really want to apologize face to face. Ebony, nodding calmly. I got your letter. Thank you. I hope this puts the incident behind us as a lesson for both of us. Ronald smiles slightly, relief in his eyes. Ronald, I've learned never to judge someone before truly understanding them, and I appreciate your help with Alyssa's math. Ebony smiles back. She's a bright girl. I'm sure she'll go far. Their exchange warms the room. A few neighbors watch them shake hands, quietly applauding this gesture of reconciliation. Partway through the HOA meeting, Margaret Harris, an elderly resident, bursts in, panicked. Margaret. Does anyone here know about security? My car window just got smashed and someone stole my wallet from the garage. Alarm spreads. Ebony immediately steps forward, requesting more details. Ronald volunteers too. Ronald. I set up a camera at my front door. If the angle covers Mrs. Harris's property, maybe I caught something. Margaret leads Ebony and Ronald to her home, where the car window remains shattered, wallet missing. Ebony calls in a patrol officer to document the incident and inspect the scene. Ronald, though not a professional investigator, brings his laptop to share the footage from his security system. Sure enough, the recording captures a hooded figure creeping into Margaret's driveway at dusk, breaking the car window. Ebony glances at Ronald, silently appreciative that he offered a possible clue. Ebony, thinking, everyone can change if given the opportunity. The next afternoon, Ebony's investigative team visits Ronald's house to review camera footage. Ronald graciously welcomes them in. Alyssa offers them water, appearing quite hospitable. Ronald. Sheriff Wilson, do you need the original files? I can email them if that helps. Ebony. Yes, thanks, Mr. Green. This is very helpful. We suspect this perpetrator has been targeting upscale neighborhoods. The tech team at our department will analyze the footage. As they talk, Ebony notices Alyssa watching intently. She seems pleased her father and the sheriff, once at odds, are now working side by side. Sensing Ronald's genuine concern for their security, Ebony gently touches his shoulder. Ebony, don't worry. We'll do what we can. Greenwood Lakes is home to all of us. Ronald nods, giving a faint, appreciative smile. 2 days later, the Riverbend Police Department announces an arrest. The suspect is part of a group responsible for multiple petty thefts. Officers recover several stolen items, including Margaret Harris's wallet. Word spreads quickly, neighbors cheering that the culprit was apprehended. Some even remark, it's thanks to Ronald Green's camera footage. This time, Ronald doesn't brag. Instead, he remains humble, thanking Ebony and her officers. Deep inside, he's begun to understand how complex Ebony's job truly is. That weekend, Ebony returns to the pool, dressed in simple workout gear, carrying a book. She offers friendly hellos to a few acquaintances. In the distance, Alyssa waves, then pulls her father's hand. Alyssa, quietly to Ronald. Dad, let's go say hi to Sheriff Wilson. Ronald hesitates a moment, then agrees. They approach Ebony's chair, now with more families around, children laughing, light music playing, a cheerful atmosphere. Ronald, smiling sheepishly. Hello, Sheriff Wilson. Beautiful day, isn't it? Ebony. Indeed. I hope no one shows up demanding I prove I live here again. Her gentle, humorous jab makes Ronald a bit nervous, but soon they all chuckle. Alyssa. Sheriff Wilson, I'm about to swim with my friends. Hope you have a great afternoon. The teen runs off. Ronald remains, scratching his head. Ronald, I really want to thank you again. I know how bad I made things look before. Thank you for allowing me a chance to make amends. Ebony. Just remember, everyone here deserves respect. That's the best way to keep us all safe. Ronald nods, changing the topic. He mentions the upcoming HOA barbecue, inviting Ebony to come. She says she'll try to make it if work doesn't interfere. The following morning, Ebony rises early for a run. Passing the community bulletin board, she notices a poster, Get to Know Your Neighbors, pinned beside photos from past HOA events. In one photo, Ebony wears her uniform, shaking hands with a city council member. Underneath, someone scribbled, Before you judge, read the board. Ebony smiles. Ever since the incident with Ronald, many seem to view her with new respect and genuine warmth. Their confrontation ironically became an opportunity for deeper understanding and personal growth for both of them. As she heads home, Ebony runs into Alyssa jogging. Ebony, you're up early. Alyssa, panting. Training for a 5K at school. I'm shooting for under 25 minutes. Ebony offers words of encouragement, and the teen beams before running off. Ebony reflects. That girl is determined. May she grow up with fewer biases than her father started with. That evening, back in her cozy kitchen, Ebony prepares a simple meal, chicken breast and steamed greens, when her phone buzzes with a text from Lucinda. Congrats on catching the thief. Everyone says you moved really fast. Ebony chuckles, replying, Thanks. See you tomorrow. Sipping a glass of water, she recalls everything that's happened. A seemingly small conflict at the pool unveiled deeper undercurrents of prejudice. Yet Ebony's calm approach showed how a steady, self-assured presence speaks louder than shouting. She also acknowledges how fear, like Ronald's fear for his daughter, sometimes propels discrimination. That doesn't excuse it, but it clarifies its origins. True resolution comes from calm dialogue and unwavering defense of dignity. Monday morning arrives. The routine hums along. Garbage trucks pass. Residents head to work. Kids ready for school. Ebony dons her neatly pressed uniform, polishes her badge, habits she's had for over 2 decades, then pauses before her mirror. Ebony, softly to her reflection. Let this remind me, dignity doesn't need permission. She steps out, driving to the department. Elsewhere, Ronald is also up early, preparing to drive Alyssa to school. Before starting the car, he glances briefly at Ebony's cream-colored house with the American flag waving by the porch, nodding slightly. Perhaps today, Ronald Green truly understands that respect isn't optional, but the fundamental key to living side by side. Their story at Greenwood Lakes isn't truly over. More scenarios will inevitably arise. However, a small yet meaningful bridge has been built between these two seemingly opposite individuals. They might never be best friends, but at least they know how to move forward together, because ultimately, they both belong here.